Hey all, so this is War 3, and this is probably the single strongest team I've ever brought to war in terms of raw power. I'm not really a Hercules player, I don't have a Nick. I know I've taken all rank 4s before, but geez, this trio. So we're starting off playing very carefully against this Knull because this is Hazard Shift, Incinerate, Shock, and Doom is not Incinerate immune. We are going to hit into the Incinerate a couple times this fight just to make sure that we control the space and try and avoid corruption. But for the most part, we're trying to hit during shock. Notice that we also are getting a significant benefit from having Reed on the team. See that right there, Knull's heavy at the corner, is exactly why we're willing to hit into him during Incinerate sometimes. So we have a debuff Siphoner pre-fight from Reed, which is reducing any incinerates that do land on us by 25%. Additionally, that is a debuff. The armor break we get from the synergy is a debuff, and so that is a 12% attack reduction because I run 3 out of 3 in inequity. And so together, those two effects are making the hazard shift hurt less than it could. But now we are just going to go ahead and use power back boosts and make sure that this fight is over before we have to think about anything else. So I think that's pretty much how that one goes. In Hazard Shift, I think it's very important to remember if you are using a character that's only immune to one of the two debuffs, do not be afraid to hit into block. Maintain spacing, maintain control of the field, and your fight can look like that too. I'm very, very happy with how that went. Now we move on to this Longshot on Vigorous Assault and Buffet over time. The joke with this node is, of course, that if a buff is nullified by Buffet over time, your opponent now has a long duration regen effect that will cause them to go unblockable, and then you'll probably deck some more. Maybe they'll keep nullifying. And Longshot, of course, has a nullify built into his kit. So there are a number of answers here, but I really think that Reed is one of the most elegant because look right there. I don't have to evade anything. Or at least I don't have to dex anything because I'll auto evade it. And I don't have to worry about Longshot getting very many specials because our suppression debuffs are keeping his combat power rate down. If I did happen to dex, I wouldn't have to worry too much about Mystic Dispersion because we have those petrifies. I wouldn't have to worry. See right there, I actually do trigger the regen, but it doesn't really matter because that's actually helping us. The fact that we have 2 petrifies and 8 debuffs total up means that the regen is doing him more harm than good. We don't really care that he's unblockable because Reed's debuffs last long enough. We don't panic, and the fight is over. So I actually could have played that better from a safety standpoint, but I think the fight went smoother in the long run because I did trigger that dex and had regen to reverse, funnily enough. So then we have this Eye Hulk here, and you're going to see me immediately not go for the heavy. And the reason for that is because if I go for the heavy, I knock him down, I proc a conduit debuff. That doesn't matter all that much as far as him healing, because we're going to heal block it. But the way that this node works is that each individual regen effect starts that counter towards him going unblockable. If I knock him down and he starts healing while he's not heal blocked, and so I hit him again on the way to the special one, and then we have bad luck on the special one, we can easily land 10 individual hits when he's not heal blocked. He will regen a little bit on each one because that's how Conduit works. Those count towards the node, and then Eye Hulk will be unblockable. So that's why you saw me go for the special one first, then I start weaving in heavies when I have time, but the priority is always on the special one because we need maximum uptime on the heal block, and then Hyperion just rolls Eye Hulk. That's all you really have to think about there. Moving on to Mojo here on Buffet over time again. Similar idea as Longshot, bit more of a penalty minus the unblockable for if we do mess up, but we're just not going to worry too much about Mojo's abilities because basically the things that are dangerous about most mystics are their special attacks or how they cause you to dex while you're baiting their special attacks. And so, because Reed reduces both combat power rate and ability power rate through suppression and petrify, we're just not going to have to worry about as many specials from this Mojo. And if we don't have to worry about as many specials, then we just need to try and not Dex, and our main issue becomes his prompts. So luckily that first one was hold block, but then notice we get block a hit immediately. And this right here is just like peak Mojo, because I forget what the next prompt is. It's something very simple. I think it's like dash back. Yep, dash backwards. And so I try not to dash backwards, but he gets up and immediately does, as, yeah, this is just how Mojo works. So I'm very glad that I have a rank 4 Mr. Fantastic. I'm very glad that the rest of the fight is going well, that I'm not dexing, that I'm making sure to stay on top of things, because of course there he just got stun a champion, and I didn't react quickly enough to avoid it. We're fully ramped, but he's going to cause a hater on his next one. And of course, I think he charges his... No, he doesn't. Okay, so I avoid it. And there I charge a heavy, but the fight's effectively over here. I take some degen and it's fine, because that's my last fight with Reed. I believe that was a calculated risk to make sure I kept all of my debuffs. That is how Mojo can be annoying. If you're not using a buff immune, which would be ideal here, of course, then I think playing it that way with Reed works. If you were using a lower rank Mr. Fantastic, I think I probably would power start there, but my rank 4 honestly didn't need it. So then we have Galan here on Stunning Reflection. He is Conduit, but Hyperion is sick and tired, so we're going to be applying those debuffs to him. We're going to have plenty of... we're just going to have permanent uptime on the heal block because we're easily going to have 3 or more debuffs. The pre-fights from Mr. Fantastic just make that much easier. That means that we can actually parry here, and we are just going to be knocking him down constantly, so we shouldn't have to worry much about, what's it called? Oh, about planetary mass. Sorry. The thing that Galan gets when he gains buffs. See, there it goes up by 40. We dex out of the special 1. We knock him back down. It's already back down to 10. And now it's at 0. He's 50% down. Like, this is why Hyperion is so good against Galan. He gets away from me a little bit there, but just frequent specials is one of the best keys against him. You do not need a neutralizer. And so while there are still nodes where somebody like Rintra or Tigra is very good against Galan, I really do think that because Conduit makes them a little bit harder to use, Hyperion is often the single best counter to him this season. Because you just lock down the healing and he never gains any mass. Now, this was obviously harder when I took Galan on Hazard Shift, but on a node like this, where we're just getting all this benefit from the Incinerates, it's allowing us to also parry. Not that we've had any luck with heavies. This just feels great. You'll also notice that because I have Hyperion's power gain and polka dot power, I actually had more power than I wanted there, which is why I ended up throwing a special 3. But you don't really need to worry about it because the stun on his special 2 cannot be reflected by the node. It just won't land. And basically you just throw debuffs when you can. Additionally, that's another reason that the pre-fights from Mr. Fantastic are so good there, because you always have two debuffs. That means even if I throw a special and it doesn't apply any incinerates, it doesn't apply an armor break, because Conduit itself will trigger a debuff on knockdown, that instantly activates the heal block. So it's just a really, really good counter. All 3 of these champions are insanely powerful. They work really well together, as you saw. The pre-fights make Hype stronger, they make Doom stronger. The synergy between Reed and Doom is amazing. This was just such an incredibly fun war, and it felt really good to run. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Catch an eye out for the next one. I actually take 3 Toad fights in the war that I just finished up today. And until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.